Oh, good morning. It is Happy Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2021. Right after we witnessed the inability of the federal government to post charges for, I guess maybe that's a strategy, huh? Because Donald Trump was guilty and he is not the president anymore, and therefore he can be tried as an American citizen for the violation of rules and laws that he apparently violated. Why? And before he was the president. But as an American citizen and as an American living in America at the age of 62 and understanding civic engagement and civic responsibility, the reality is that Black people have an illusion of inclusion, as we are perceived to be as equal, as we equally pay taxes, and we equally do lots of things that have to do. Good morning, Sharon Collins is my Miss. Hey, good morning, Sharon. It's her birthday. Oh no, it's not her birthday. It's Valentine's Day. She's got her sweetie wishing her happy Valentine's Day. Oh, goodness. But America, who are we? Who are we in 2021 when Sam Cooke was singing about what he saw? And when you go back and you look in the history of Black Americans, Black artists, Black entertainers who already realized that they had to ante up and still have no voice. But how is it that we continue to have no voice after we witness the insurrection at the Capitol? Is what I perceive as being, good morning, sunrise. But the perception of what took place in America was the irrelevance of public executions as they still happen to Black people, and Black people share concerns. And even in the public education system, as our children are on the bottom, yet and still we are included in the taxation system. We're actually included in America, as we all are. We've arrived. Reality is that we're still unheard. So when it comes to the obligation to ante up, to level up, people don't have the ability to level up. And our children are failing massively in public education. It's something that's just been accepted because who are we? A people of what? A people who used to be enslaved in America. A people who have brought America tremendous wealth, our talent, our culture, our ability to love and forget, forgive and forget. We never forget. Understand, it's relevant that we must talk about in 2021 the failed services for public education. As we understand now, every child is entitled to a quality education. One is meaningful. And behavior, well, let's just understand what behaviors are. Human behaviors are to be transitioned to a more meaningful benefit with the public education system that we all pay for, right? We all pay for public education as we are taxed. What I find to be totally disturbing is what I witnessed on January 6th and the inability of Congress to hold itself accountable. And that's an inability to hold themselves accountable for the death of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery. The list could go on forever, as we are Black and still Black in America. And we still pay taxes. And just as Sam Cooke said, hey, come on now. If you can express it in a song and they still take your life because you were engaging the hearts and minds of the people who look like you. And life is about influence as we understand what happened to Nipsey. But this has to be our challenge. And the challenge is not seeing life through someone else's eyes. The challenge is understanding life through your own eyes. Understanding that choice is everything. So let's not be confused as the process that has been established for uniformity is established by the people who are participating in the conversation about how it should look. But guess what? If your voice is never brought to the table, and they continue to collect the resources to provide you those same services. Well, do you live on the plantation in 2021? Apparently so. The plantation still exists as we fear losing our status if we should rock the boat once we are elected in a position of authority. So therefore, understanding positions of authority give you no power. They give you the power to represent your area or to do your job, basically. So do it well. But as an American citizen, what is your job? I might ask, what is the job of an American citizen? Well, to vote, to share your concerns regarding the implementation of the resources and allocations that are awarded in your community simply by the number of people who live in your area, the number of children who are in poverty, the number of children who need to have, foster youth children bring additional dollars to local communities. What other children with disabilities actually bring additional resources to communities. But so do the rules. The obligation to follow the maintenance of effort, they call it. And as I can see now, the integration of services never really happened in Nevada and won't happen in Nevada simply because it's based on if there's enough money. Well, there will never be enough money to hold people accountable unless the people who are receiving those fraudulent services, the ones that are being impacted by the half-ass, services that are being provided to them locally, and failure being an opportunity, like getting a certificate to go to the harbor. What the hell is that certificate value? It is the value that you're generating as an individual anyway, and you're just paying someone's salary so that what? You will always need a service if you don't get a basic education. If you cannot read, write, and comprehend the King's English, well, you're out there in the cold, and I'm sorry. There's really nothing that can be done. The struggle will continue unless you find your niche. And what do I mean by niche? Well, you find out something that makes a difference to someone, and they're willing to pay for it, and you're willing to engage them. But I'm going to tell you, in 2021, what should we say about America when we witness that the senators who didn't have the ability to create laws that would control the out-of-control guns issue in America, when young white people with women and cars and a life would challenge their mind and go into a school or a movie theater and take the lives of so many because of what? Now, I consider that mental illness. But when a young white boy would go into a church and take the lives of black people, and then he'd be taken to Burger King. Well, I consider that mental illness for me to accept the reality that no matter what they do to us, they hold themselves to no accountability, yet they want our tax dollars. Isn't it tax time? It's April. Tax time. Coming up soon. And yes, Americans have always been paying taxes, just as we can understand how sad it is that Mike Tyson, for the first time in his life, would have voted this past election. But Mike Tyson has been paying taxes his whole life. And unfortunate to not have a voice because of whatever laws that were violated by him, supposedly, that took his rights, were violated by other people who were running for Congress against Susie Lee. Dan Rothenheimer, or whatever his name was, he was accused of the same thing Mike Tyson was accused of, but hell, I don't think he went to jail. I don't think he lost his privileges. No, because he was still running for Congress, right? As an American citizen, as an American, as a breathing soul living on this earth, the obligation is, even if you don't have children, for the people who look like you, who are born like you, who are subject to the same brutal behavior from the overseer, as that still exists. Apparently, when you can kneel on someone's neck and have no consequences, well, that's the behavior of an overseer. If you can shoot someone 7 times in the back and have no consequences, what kind of behavior is that of a human being? Especially of a human being that's paid to serve and protect out of your money that you're paying for tax dollars, and you're paying his salary, his house on the hill. You're paying, and you have no choice of these things. You understand what I'm saying? It's an obligation as an American citizen. So the obligation is to be heard. You get me? We all have to be heard. Are we so satisfied with what's happening and who they have the ability to keep out of providing services for people who look like us, and how it is we have to continue to rely upon them? No, we don't. I'm here to tell you, it's not a reliance on an individual. Actually, it's an expectation. If they get paid out of the money to provide the service, and if they can't do it, guess what? 45 taught you. Choice is real. Understand choice in America. And you know, when certain people don't adhere to the rules, well, why would you continue to, apply yourself to the abuse? You know, I heard a young man talking about rules of engagement on a flight. Well, guess what? You can drive. You ain't got to fly. So if you don't like the fact that they're stacking the bodies together, don't fly. It's a choice. And that's just real, because people are only people. And we are only human. And human beings are human. Reality. But in 2021, if Black Lives Matter, and understand the children were on the streets protesting way before we realized that coronavirus was a real thing. And the corona has been around for a long time. It's just a flu virus. That's what it means. But in all reality, there's different versions, and it's constantly mutating, and it's so bright out here. And it's constantly mutating. And I don't plan on running to go get a shot every year, as I really never took the flu shot. One time, got sick. Once was enough. We have to pray about it, and we have to be cautious and be careful and wear the mask. But it's all a choice. So for people walking around who don't want to wear the mask, hey, more power to them, because that's a choice too. Everything in life is based on a choice. You really don't have to, but you do. I'll tell you what's not based on a choice. You do have to participate, however, in the educational system in America, as it is compulsory, and you pay for it. And you're paying for whatever service you accept. So if your child doesn't have a meaningful, fruitful, engaging education, and they're failing, and you don't have the ability to articulate your concerns, well, boo, you better find someone who can. Someone who can articulate the King's English very well, because you ain't got but 12 years to make a meaningful difference in your child's life. Because people are getting paid, and we ain't paying no little bit of money, honey. And people like to say that, I heard it the other day on a video. from the Department of Education that special education is not fully funded mandate. Guess what, boo? It is fully funded. And they talk about the billions of dollars that go into public education to provide meaningful opportunities. And actually, this SB 116 is a new Senate bill. I mean, y'all should go through the new bills sitting at the legislature, as they are just understanding that they have to create opportunities for all children. And they're trying to share with people the responsibility, but they're saying, if the money allows. And I can tell you, the money's never going to allow it. So let's just talk about the real reality of understanding who you are as an individual, as an American citizen. You do not have to accept the letter grade of F. When your child gets an F, you need to write a letter to your principal and say, I am concerned, as I am a taxpayer and my child is not receiving an adequate benefit, that I would think that that child could be independent in the short time that they have in the public education system. And so therefore, I would like to have a full educational evaluation to determine just what my child's ability is. Because when they start putting them in these programs with these community partners, there's no obligation to ensure that advancement happens. And they still won't get the money all the way until the child gets 23 or 26, boo. And that money's not going to stop coming to them until the child gets into another agency like the juvenile halls. But apparently, it is the Department of Health and Human Services that provides those wonderful services through the Juvenile Hall Division, through the Department of Justice, through the only opportunity you have, your one opportunity in life for you as an individual to be independent comes in the first 12 years of your life. So here we are in 2021 February. And it was 1964, actually, that the Civil Rights Act actually happened. And you know, there are lots of things that happen in public education, as you have to understand the responsibility of the system, as it is a mandate that your child participate. And the modified behaviors that are provided from the state in which you live, I don't care what state you live in, it's supposed to be able to provide you with an opportunity to sustain one's life. But honey, if your child's getting a letter grade of F, I don't know what that sustainability looks like. And if you've accepted the failure, well, that's not the offer of a free and appropriate public education, because you do have the obligation and opportunity to just intervene and have a meeting. But honey, these meetings can happen all the time, especially once they say your child has a disability or learns differently or whatever. I mean, in America, it's freeing to understand that individually we hold this kind of power. But group-wise, we hold nothing, as unity is not a strength of my people. They don't unify because they all think differently. But I'm going to tell you one thing. You can't get beyond. All the children come here the same way. And all the children have to have access to the opportunity to learn. But if your children are being prohibited from benefiting from what we all pay for, and you share no concern as a people, well, my people are broken, as they have accepted failed services as an offer of a free and appropriate public education, as they perhaps lack love. I don't know. But failure has just never been at the tip of my tongue. Failed services? No, not at all. None of my children ever failed any of their classes. And I was blessed with the opportunity to show up. And I showed up every day. And I understand the power of showing up, but not everybody can. But when you can't, And you have an obligation in your community to organize for those who cannot. And this failure to organize for those who cannot, it's baffling, as no matter what, if we cannot save the children, then we cannot save ourselves. As we all get old and we all are unable to continue, and then we gather. I mean, all of our lives we gather, just gather things that you can't take with you. You know what I'm saying? And the real deal, no matter Nipsey, no matter who, we can listen. You know, Whitney, Whitney's daughter, Michael Jackson, Prince, B.B. King. I mean, all of the entertainers are no longer here, but they all experience this allegiance to the tax system, the American tax system. I mean, even Marvin Gaye. Come on now. You can't name one artist that didn't understand, especially these young artists. Once they made that first $1 million, $100,000 in taxes really was real. Because for every $100,000 that you get, it's it's 10,000 on the 100. And it's more than 10,000 on the 100, because if you win, it's about 10,000 on the 100, and that's just being. And if you're working, you make $50,000, you're gonna pay some taxes. And you're going to pay your health care, and you're going to pay for all of these wonderful services. But for a state to not have the ability to organize and unify the federal services that are uniquely established to provide the services to the human population, and to be operating totally out the box, doing whatever the fuck they want to do, is a real thing. We just need to understand this out of here. We the people. Who are we the people when they don't represent all the people? I don't understand. How is it that African Americans are on the bottom across this nation in education because all of our children can learn? I don't understand. How is it that people seem to believe that they can take your voice away? I don't understand. So therefore, the revolution wasn't televised, but the understanding is that we have arrived, and there is no putting the genie back in the box, simply because we all witness the insurrection at the Capitol of people who they weren't wealthy people. No, those people were about 8,000 Americans, mostly white, who felt that the government was being taken away from them. Well, and I can tell you, we have moved beyond the plantation, and I shall not be going back. Therefore, yes, we have moved beyond that. But we have to understand that Kevin McCarty and that group of American citizens perhaps believe that they still have the right to oversee. Let's not forget that California paid for the runaway slaves with the State Insurance Commission in 1976, last payment. I believe that we was paying taxes by then as American citizens. And America hasn't established a different process for Black Americans. Nope. Everything is the same. Immigrants come to America. Yes, they do, every day. Every day, and they bring their children here. And they receive quality services as they understand the American education system is a free education system. But when you show up and they limit your opportunities, you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that for the most part, they tell Black people that their children can't start early Head Start, early education, because, that's child care. That's a resource, right? So you've been tricked out of the early start and early services. But then they have this policy. See, they have these policies that are floating around saying that if they test you and you're not ready for kindergarten. Now, see, I read that, and if you didn't read it, then maybe you should go back and look at their welcome packet. But they have the ability to assess and see if you're at first grade level or kindergarten level, and then they don't have to let you in. But I didn't understand that at all. But they have different policies floating around that affect people that they use at their own will. So these policies seem to affect people. But guess what? If you have a child, early Head Start, and Head Start takes premature babies. They have services for kids with disabilities. And that's how they shift the line, by bringing in people who don't qualify for the program by the disabilities. There's all kind of games we can play. But guess what? In the race game, you got to get in the race. You have to stretch beyond your retirement, so to speak, because your people have not arrived as black people. We have not. Sure, you can be up there chasing the ball around like OJ. He's in Vegas. A lot of people were in Vegas. That last Supreme, she died. She was here in Vegas. But the educational system here for black people in Vegas lacks a lot. And the black children here in Vegas, for the most part, the children in poverty, are on the bottom, for the most part. And the children who are being pushed in the harbor programs. And they're planning on having a conference. Yes. Another conference for the Promise Zone or the Promise whatever. My brother's keeper are planning on having a Zoom conference in February, sometime this month. But how many black people are involved in the services that are being provided to the children in the harbor? I just want to know, because I haven't managed to see any of their meeting data and the notes. When you get federal dollars and federal money, you got to have data. It's called an MOE, maintenance of effort. And you got to demonstrate whatever you're doing with those dollars, and you got to make the dollars make sense. And that's just real. Well, the federal government can do a lot of things to punish you. But it seems like this has been a hands-off state, because ain't no hands been on this state. And niggas just at the bottom. And I don't care if you don't consider yourself that. If you let children who cannot advocate for themselves, and there are so many who are intelligent, who are black, who understand what the educational system should look like. But hey, this don't give a damn attitude is real. And education is my thing, as I had to fight so very hard to ensure that my sons received a quality education, and all my sons graduated, including the one they said was severely mental retarded and communication handicapped. They would not graduated with a 1-on-1 laptop and above proficient. Yet and still we have people here that can't get a damn laptop. How do you have a family of five children in the public education system, and they be giving these tablets for the distance education, and not one computer, not one laptop, and not one printer, but yet and still you're getting all this money to educate that family, and the family is struggling. None of their children are meeting the basic levels. And I'm saying, you're still going to pay yourself, right? You're not going to take any of your money away. No, these people are sitting high on the hill, providing public education services to people that they don't like. Well, perhaps they're the ones that should not be providing the services, right? Because if you didn't learn anything while 45 was in office, you better have learned this: choice is everything. And when you watch these people who won't wear a mask in public, it's their choice. So you don't need to go where they go. Choice is everything in America. And that's just real. They feel that choice is everything. So when they steal your opportunities for the first 12 years of your life in public education, and you come out of school and you don't know even how to read, can't even access the resources. What are we doing in America when we would allow so many children to fail? Oh, we got that handled, right? You got all these private prisons. Well, it's time to end the private prisons. Exactly what your new president said. But if you're going to end the private prisons, what are you going to do for the people who have been incarcerated for so long without any opportunities? And you know, I'm going to tell you, Barack Obama, he changed things in education. Yes, he did, because he said that those children who are not reaching high school graduation standards, that they have an opportunity to have a vocational rehabilitation. But if you don't read, you don't know that. And they haven't started that work really here. And when they do start it, I'm hearing that they got all kind of tricks to keep it away from your ass. So, hey, you tell me, how well are black people performing? And I'm going to tell you, there's black people here with so much money that, you know, hey, it's real. And the life of the champagne life that Nipsey was living is real, but he said it. My people don't stand together. And he said it, that we have to come together and talk about the maintenance of effort, what's been going on in these years, in these 155 years of the Emancipation Proclamation, what happened to ensure that we were included, and the maintenance of effort of what we all participate in. Because the day of public execution is over, or is it? Because they failed miserably. They failed to hold themselves accountable. And that's real. So if they, if they didn't hold themselves accountable, and they can't hold themselves accountable, and that's just real. It's something that's an impossibility. I mean, that's something that they just can't do. We all witnessed how they talked about how Donald Trump was guilty, and we knew it. Now, as an American citizen, I've got to hear him 4 more years talking about how he wasn't guilty, how he really won the election. Are you serious? There were Congress members who understood he did not win and could have ended his siege on the White House at any time. None of them ever have, sons, what do you call these, he tried to call us bitches, so what should we say? None of them snitches, they didn't tell on themselves. I don't know anymore. Because here we are in 2021, where you would you would have expectations of real world evolution, and that we have evolved because we are here. This is America. And the reality is that America's really real. So, yes, prison is real. Just ask R. Kelly. Just ask OJ. Really. I mean, come on now. Who else is in there? Bill Cosby? I mean, how many of our top artists, top musicians haven't been to jail for failing to whatever? And there were times when black people were just not permitted to perform. I mean, we've really went through some challenging times in America, but we still have had to pay taxes and still have an obligation to vote and for our voices to be heard. But where's our voice when every city in the United States provides public services and somehow black children are not benefiting from the same educational opportunities as all other children, when children would come here from any other nation in the world and receive a quality education? I mean, we educate people that are doctors and lawyers and physicians, and come on now, everything, engineers, to go back to their homeland and provide services. But why can't we do that for American children? Children in the ghettos. Oh no, somebody has to support this system, right? So the harvest is us. And I'm telling you, in 2021, the requirement for citizenship is the challenge. You must step your game up. Understand that public education is the socialism that exists in America. And you better make sure that your children get their share. Because freedom has never been free. And that's just real. So if freedom isn't free, I could talk forever. The reality is the latter. Because the latter is that there are people that are just losing it every day. Because they really believe. And they do have power. They have power to choose to do whatever they choose to do. Not wear the mask, take a gun, shoot up people, you know what I'm saying? And then not be punished. None of those people, they said they're going to punish those people. But none of those people, those people planned to show up. That was a staged event. They all knew what they were going to do. And they were rallied on. So Donald Trump, I don't think they're worried about him because I think he got a lot of other irons in the pot. He's still fighting to stay in Florida as he negotiated that he would never live in Mar-a-Lago. So they got a lawsuit going against it. But come on now, this is America. And things consistently change. So it's time for the change in 2021 for my people to start understanding that the foundational services for the people who they look at in the street who are unable to care for themselves because they lack skills. It's time for a process to be created for them to have some kind of foundation so that we can put an end to COVID. But we can't put an end to COVID until we can provide housing, minimal support for people who we failed to educate in all of the years. Because they're only humans, and all humans require a level of service. And how will we measure the benefit of what we've invested in? That's what you need to understand. There's been an investment in public services. And how does it affect your people? The responsibility. Trying to reconnect. I've been on for 37 minutes. They gave me a time. But guess what? It's not, my phone is not going to die because it's plugged in. Anyway, that level of control is gone. Well, like I said, y'all have a great day. Catch me on Anchor, Facebook, YouTube. Hey, educate yourself. Because never look for someone to save you when you've got to do the work. You've got to do the work. Stand up. This is Darlene Anderson, signing out 2021.